Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney Morgan. Today I have a new case for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Joe Methany. Joe Methany, he chopped his victims that he killed up and put them in his burgers that he sold at his burger stand. He's an absolute disturbing person who is known as the Cannibal. Big Joe grew up in Essex, Maryland. He grew up in a very neglected home where he lived with his alcoholic father and his really crappy mother. His father died when he was 6 years old in a car accident. He would claim that he was neglected, and his mother actually would send him to live in foster care quite often. Now, his mother worked a lot. The stories often got jumbled between what Joe said and what his mother said. Joe would say that he was neglected and he never had food, and he would often actually tell people that his mother was dead. But his mother would say that she busted her ass to provide food for her 6 children, and that Joe was a liar. But she would say that as a child, he was completely normal. He was smart, he had friends, and she would say that if he felt neglected, it was his own fault. And it's not quite clear between Joe and his mother who the liar was in this, because Joe would say that he became addicted to drugs like heroin when he served a year in Vietnam, but his mother would go on to say that she had no recollection of him ever serving in any force. But I guess he did, so that just shows how close him and his mother were, because reports say that he actually did serve in the military. In the 90s, Joe was known as Tiny because he was 6'1" and overweight, which I feel like every Tiny that I've ever known was always that big dude. That's confusing. We should probably stop doing that because that confuses me. I don't understand why we do that, but okay. He was homeless. He always lived at like homeless camps in South Baltimore. And he usually just spent his money on stuff like Southern Comfort, crack, heroin, cocaine. He was living the life, you know. He was having a good time. He actually spent a lot of his adulthood holding a job as a forklift driver. And there, his coworkers and everybody would say that he was super well-mannered and that he was intelligent. Joe would claim that in 1994, he came home from work, and when he opened the door, he realized that everything was gone. He had found out that the girl he was with, he called her his old lady. He said, "My old lady had left me, taken everything, and taken my 6-year-old son with her." He said that he didn't care that she left. He was mad that he took his 6-year-old son and left. He would say that this woman was a crack addict and a worthless piece of shit. He said that he would have paid her to leave. All he wanted was for her to possibly take his son to his mother's house and get the hell out of town. But she didn't. She took the child with her. There she moved in with somebody else, and she started selling her body for money so that she could buy some more crack. Then he goes on to say that she was selling her ass for crack, and then Child Protective Services stepped in, and then they took his son, and they said that they were taking him because of neglect and abuse to the child. He said that he had no choice but to go find what he would call these pieces of shit. But in 1994, he would actually kill his first victim. She was a sex worker. Her name was Kathy, and he actually strangled Kathy and then buried her in a shallow grave at his work. I don't understand why killers decide to bury people where they're close to. Like, you think if you were a serial killer and you didn't want to get caught, you would probably like go a ways away to dispose of that body. But Joe is joining the band of serial killers who obviously got caught and burying it close to home. 6 months after he buried Kathy, he decided to dig her back up steal her head so it would be harder to identify her, put it in a box, and then he threw that in the trash. And it took 2 years after the kill for them to even find Kathy's body. So Big Dirty Joe goes under the bridge to look for his baby mama and his baby mama's pimp slash boyfriend, whatever you want to call it. And that's where he found two 33-year-old homeless men, one named Randy, one named Randall. Yeah. And he decided that he was going to take his axe and chop these guys up. He kills these two homeless men, and then with the axe that he killed them with, the axe was actually stolen and later used by somebody else to murder another guy. Are the homeless really this violent? Like, is stuff for real like that intense with them? I'd like to know. He would also go on to say that that was the first night that he lured his first crack whore under the bridge. And then he would go on to say that he was trying to get information from this woman about where his baby mama was, and she said that she didn't know. So he got her high, he assaulted her, and then he killed her. Then he would go on to say that he put her body into some bushes, and then he went on to lure his second whore down there. So he said that he decided that he was going to do the same thing to the second woman as he did to the first woman, and he killed her. And as he was trying to throw the second woman into the bushes where the other woman was at, he looked over and there was a guy fishing in the river. So he grabbed a pipe and went and beat this fisherman, and then he took all three of those bodies and weighted them down in the river with rocks. He said that once he disposed of those bodies, he cleaned himself up in the river, and then he said that it took about 2.5 weeks for them to arrest him for all these murders. But he claims that he was so proud. He did 5 murders in 7 hours. Joe spent 18 months in jail while he awaited his trial to finish, and they ended up getting rid of all 5 of those murder cases because there was a lack of evidence. One of the jurors didn't believe there was enough evidence, so they just threw the whole case out. And now that he was back out on the streets, he decided that he was going to go start murdering people again. So in '96, Joe actually went out and killed another woman, a 23-year-old woman. Her name was Kimberly, and he stabbed her a whole bunch. Once he was released from jail, he went back to the pallet company that he used to work for, and he asked his boss for his job back. So the boss gave him the job back, and there was a little trailer at the end of a dead-end road on that property that he convinced his boss into giving him the keys to and letting him live there. He said that that was a perfect place for what he was going to do. So once he had his new happy ever after place in the back of the company in this creepy little dead-end area, he lured 2 more, as he called them, crack whores, into his trailer where he butchered them and put their meat into Tupperware and put them into his freezer to save them for later. Now, after this, he said that he lured another woman to his trailer and he ripped her clothes off and tried to knock her the hell out. That's what he says. And he said that she was screaming, but there was nobody there but him to hear her scream. He said that he turned around for a split second and she ran for the door where he could not get to her. So she gets outside and she scales this fence using some of the pallets from the company to help her get over it. He would say that that bitch scaled those pallets and fence like a monkey, and she ran down to the road where she found a man in a truck, and he took her to the nearest gas station where she could call for police. Then a month later, Joe decided that he was going to try to sexually assault his friend Rita, and she wasn't having any of that. And they were friends because they liked to do a lot of cocaine together. Guess that's something that they could really bond over. But when him and Rita were in his trailer one day, they were doing some cocaine, and he tried to assault her, and then Rita ran out of the trailer, and as she was running away, he caught up to her and he said, "I'm gonna kill you and bury you in the woods with those other girls." So that's a big red flag. I feel like if I was Rita, I would have taken that to the police, because that could have been some like really good evidence. Rita did get away from him and she ran away. She found a cop that was nearby and told that cop exactly what had just happened. But at this time, Joe actually still had Kimberly's body hidden inside the factory that he was working at. Police showed up. They jumped out of their car, they aimed their guns at him and told him to get on the ground, and he would claim that's where all his fun came to an end. Once he was arrested, he was taken down to the police station, and when he was there, he said that the cops were letting him sit in a cell for an hour, then bringing him back into interrogation and going back and forth, trying to figure out where the bodies of the rest of the people he killed were. He said that at the site where he lived, cops were out there digging and digging and digging, trying to find these other bodies. But he claims that they would have a really hard time finding them because those, quote, those bitches were in 7 different holes. He said that the police pulled him out of jail every day for about a month, taking him back to the site of that bridge by the river and to his trailer outside of that pallet company to try to find all of the remains of the bodies. But the police would never find all of the remains of these bodies because the meat that he was taking off of his victims and putting in Tupperware and putting in his freezer, he actually took and he opened a burger stand. And at that burger stand, he was taking the human meat and the animal meat and mixing them to make his burgers. He opened this random roadside stand selling burgers that contained human meat. He would say that children would eat these sandwiches. He was mad at the parents for letting the children eat the burgers that he was putting this human meat into. He said that it was the parents' fault that the children ate those sandwiches. Not Joe's fault. It was the parents' fault. And for his last quote, I'm actually gonna look down at my phone so I can read it for you. Joe says, "Well, that's my story. Horrible but true. So the next time you're riding down the road and you happen to see an open pit beef stand that you've never seen before, make sure you think about this story before you take a bite of that sandwich. Sometimes you never know who you may be eating." Ha ha ha. So that's Joe's story. He claims that he was pissed because he didn't get to kill the 2 motherfuckers that he was actually after. He is currently serving life in prison, and hopefully he never gets out, because that's a lot of crime. That's a lot of crazy shit. That's like too much crazy shit. You need to keep that guy locked up and throw away the key. He was actually sentenced to death in 1998, but into the year 2000, that was overturned, so now he's just serving life. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out my business. I make custom handmade jewelry and soy wax melts. I just dropped my new fall scents. My winter scents will be coming soon. Click the link in the description below. If you like my videos, make sure you give me a thumbs up and you hit the subscribe button so that you know when my next video is coming out. I post a few times a week, and I would love for you guys to come back and hang out with me. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye!